Baruch Hashem, I had a realization, which I think we'll see is a very important realization, and that's together with our amazing study of the first Perek of Mesilas Yesharim and seeing the centrality of Olam Haba, and there was no way to learn the Perek and miss that. It's really what it's all about, and that's really what all of our Avodas Hashem is about, and everything is about, as we've tried to explain. We were missing something, and it was lacking, and thank God I've been omed on a little bit what was lacking, and I want to share that in a session or two with all of you. Me'oivai tichakmeni. David HaMelech says, make me wise from my enemies, make me wiser than my enemies. The Pashut Pshat is, David had many enemies from inside and outside. The tragic and glorious and bittersweet and wondrous life of Adonai David. There are a lot of enemies, and he was looking for Siyat Shmai. Kadosh Baruch Hu, make me wiser than them. Help me outsmart them. I'm dealing with a lot of enemies. But there's another parish. Oivai techakmeni can be understood to mean, let me be wise from my enemies. Let me learn from them. Sometimes those radical extremists out there have something to teach us. Yaakov Avinu says, Taryag mitzvahs shamarti, v'lo lamadati ma'asav haroim. The Pashut Pshat is just a continuation. I kept the 613 mitzvahs, and I didn't learn from the bad ways of Lavan while I was in his house. But there are those that explain, why do you have to, if you said Taryag mitzvahs shamarti, it's obvious. V'lo lamadati ma'asav haroim. So I've heard the parish that Yaakov was bemoaning the fact that there was something lacking. It's not the Pashut Pshat, but Taryag mitzvah shamarti for sure I kept the mitzvah. But lo lamadati ma'asav haroim. There were things to be learn from Esav. He was so out, I didn't learn from him. Alon mikol adam. We know we're supposed to learn from everybody. Sometimes we think, but my enemies, you can't learn from them. No, we have to learn from our enemies also. Oivai techakmeni. Help me to be wise from my enemies, not just wiser than, wiser from. Which enemies am I speaking about? One of our main enemies today. Perhaps the Iker enemy. Iker enemy is Yetzer Hara. But in the physical world, our Iker enemy is fundamentalistic Arabs, I think. It's hard, there's competition out there. A lot of people are vying for this coveted position. But I think we can agree today that fundamentalistic Arabs, but I don't want to get into machlokes, not important. But one thing about fundamentalistic Arabs, the reality and the pleasure they erroneously, in a perverted, incorrect, skewered way, feel about Olam Haba, moves them, obviously. What's the message to me? We've been discussing Olam Haba in its intellectual sense, how it works and why it's where everything goes to, and if we understand the purpose of life, it's obvious, it's about the Neshama doesn't appreciate this world, the Neshama appreciates the next world, Kadosh Baruch Hu would have created us straight to the next world, but he's giving us to bring it to this world, etc. It makes sense. It's an intellectual thing. You can explain it, which is important, but it's not enough. For this concept to move us, it has to be emotional to us. It has to be visceral to us. It has to be sensual to us. It has to be in our senses. We have to get it in a real way. So what I want to try in a session or two is to really bring home the ideas a little bit, and I just share a few perhaps ideas that are going in my head about how to get myself more emotionally involved. Not that, because intellectual things are great, but we all know we get moved by, that's part of the whole picture we were talking about, right? The physical world is so real to us, and this world is so separate. Okay, but we have to try to bring that world down to ourselves and make it real to ourselves a little bit. So that's what I want to try to attempt. I think it's a very worthwhile thing. And I'm going to share maybe 6 ideas between, we'll see how much we get through in this session. Perhaps we'll go to 2 sessions, but it's definitely well worth it to talk about it for 10 sessions. Maybe we'll get to 10 sessions, but I think maybe 1 or 2. Let's see. Do you like Shabbos? I don't mean Shalom. I mean Shabbos. Many do. The meaning, the tranquility, the zmiris, the neshamadika feeling. And in that sometimes context, you can like Shalom also. Well, guess what? All that we feel on Shabbos, and we know this, is as the song goes, Me'ein olam haba. That's a me'ein. Me'ein means like a shadow, a calling of. I think it says in Chazal one place 1/60th of. Shabbos, the best we feel on Shabbos, the good feelings we feel on Shabbos, the tranquility, the neshamadika feelings, the sense that there's something more to life that a person, many do feel on Shabbos, that feeling is only a me'ain of what's coming in Olam Haba. All the great things. That's something to look forward to. So the first idea is to reflect. Again, we're trying to make Olam Haba a little more real to us, and when it's real to us, it'll move us. Not just, it's something I intellectually know I have to get to, but it's inside of us. So if, I'm shooting a bunch of arrows and sharing a bunch of ideas, and some will relate to some will relate to maybe all of them, some will relate to less, it doesn't make a difference. Think about the ideas which relate to you. We're trying to get practically and real and helpful. As my Rabbi Rav Leichter says, when we work with what works. When we work with what works. So if you like Shabbos, think on Shabbos during the week, spend time delving into that, reflecting on that. Wow, this thing that I feel, this Shabbos that I feel, it's so geschmack, so delicious in so many ways. This oneg, in Lamala min oneg is the language. There's nothing higher than that oneg. This is a little bit, a tiny inkling of what it's going to be like, what the joy is going to be like, what the pleasure is going to be like, what the tranquility is going to be like, the serenity is going to be like, the closeness is going to be like. I want that. First idea. Next idea. Baruch Hashem, so many of us love learning. When you see how everything fits together, the words and the cheshbonos, the calculations, and the reasoning jive, it's a pleasure. When one sees Elu ve'elu divrei likim chayim, I started a Gemara or a Chumash, and Rashi's Pshat made sense, and the Ramban made no sense to me. But then I see the Gur Aryeh, and I see how Rashi makes a lot of sense. And then I see another Mepharsh, see the Ramban makes sense. And I see that, wow, two perspectives that are so different, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, are both giving me different angles of the truth. Elu ve'elu divrei likim chayim. That is very, very satisfying. That is very geschmack. You see a brilliant Achron in Gemara, for those into Gemara, or in Chumash, Nach, etc., who lights up a difficult topic, a difficult Rambam, which many of us is zocha to enjoy and really enjoy and look forward to. That's Limud Torah, and we're supposed to enjoy it. V'arebna Hashem Elokeinu, we daven every morning to find pleasure, not just for ourselves, for our children, for all Klal Yisrael. V'arebna, and the Eglei Tal famously says, a Sachachover, son-in-law of the Kutzker, father of the Shemi Shmuel, but himself was called Sarah Torah, one of the greatest Torah giants of his generation, certainly. And Nigla Andister, his Chuvas, Avnei Nezer, learned until today, and very much today, quoted all the time. And who doesn't learn Eglei Tal and learn Shabbos? He said that don't think you're not supposed to find pleasure in learning. You're supposed to find pleasure in learning. That's part of the mitzvah, because when you learn with pleasure, it's nivla b'damecha, it becomes part of you. So you're supposed to be looking for pleasure in learning very, very much. Now, guess what? That pleasure we feel in learning is what Olam Haba is all about. And I want to share here from the Sachachover's son, the Shemi Shmuel. And I'll just give a shout out for my Shemi Shmuel weekly share. Anybody who's interested in contact us for how to get a weekly, a short 40-minute share. Amazing insights to the Shemi Shmuel. So I want to read from you a little bit from the Shemi Shmuel from Parshas Vayetze. This is from Tafresh Ayin Beis, which I think was 1902. Okay, this is Torah was said 123 years ago or so, and he discusses the difference between Tefillah and Torah. The Gemara in Shabbos, on Daf Yud, I think, Amud Aleph, says that one Amora was being marich b'tefillah, so he's davening for a long time, and his fellow Amora said to him, they were Gedolei Amoraim, I forget, maybe Rav Nuda or Rav Chisda, I don't remember who they were, but said, Ad Mosai, how long are you going to be involved in Chai Shah, in ephemeral, short-lived life, Chai Shah, like life of an hour, so to speak, and you're leaving Chai Olam, Torah. You're davening for too long, man. Davening, of course, definitely. But you got to get back to learning. And then the other more answered, it's man Torah l'chud, it's man tefillah l'chud. Right? Like the Alter Slobodka used to bang on the table. The whole Slobodka was in the middle of a grand discussion of fighting in Tosfos, and the Alter would bang on the Shneder, say, it's time for Musar, it's man Torah l'chud, it's man Musar l'chud. Probably worked in Slobodka, but it doesn't work as well in a lot of yeshivas today. but that's Van Torah L'chud and Van Dazay. But anyway, but back to Chai Olam Chai Shah. So Tefillah is called Chai Shah. Now, explains the Shem Shmuel, and we're just sharing this to get to what Olam Haba is about and what Torah is all about. He says it's not because we daven for Olam Haza, because there's such high inyanim in Tefillah. Think about how much we daven for Mashiach and Etzemach David, Yerushalayim Yericho, etc. Techazene Neidim B'Shukal Etzem L'Tzion. Ulaboim B'Sod Hashem. Those are into Kabbalah. Know that every Tefillah is inyanim Ramim V'Niskavim Mamish on the Olamis. So Chai Shah, because what I'm davening for Parnasa, that's part of davening, but there's a whole realm of davening which is so far above that. Ela Perishu. Now listen to this. And I pointed this, a Hasidic Rebbe saying this, not the Gra, and not the Nefesh HaChaim, and not the Litvish Yeshivas. This is someone who is deeply Hasidic, right? Thoroughly rooted in a strong Hasidic tradition, from the Baal Shem, of course, to Rabbunim, I think, and then the Kutzker, and then the Sachachev. I mean, Mamish. By the way, the Holy Kutzker said that he had Nishmas HaGra. A little bit, he said he had something from the Neshama of the Gra. So, very interesting. And you see that Sachachav and Shem Shmuel was so strong in learning. Okay, but anyway, but it is, at the end of the day, a Hasidic Sefer. The tachlis of everything is Limud Torah. Ubeshili brachas, the end of the bracha says, Talmidei Chachamim, ein lehem menucha lo b'olam hazav lo b'olam haba. Torah scholars don't have a rest in this world or the next world. Perish Rashi, ein lehem menucha miyeshiva liyeshiva mimedrash lemedrash. They're going from one place to the others. Ubezar kadosh isim yeshiva shalom haba. In Olam Haba, they're traveling from place to place. They tried out the time. The Rav Shach goes up to Olam Shalemis, and now he's in the Graz base medrash, and he goes to the Shagasaria's base medrash, and now he goes to Ricky Veger's base medrash, and then to the Rambam's base medrash. He's going from place to place. Now this is really interesting. We don't find davening in the next world, right? So therefore, that's a proof to Shetachlis Akol What Torah. So I don't want to go too much into this. So what's Tefillah about? He says Tefillah is all about being machshir the worlds and setting them up and having them be like correct conduits that Torah can work in them. Okay, that's a piece on its own. I want to read a little bit more, but the point is, where I'm getting to, is that the Shem Shmuel is telling us that Olam Haba is all about learning. It's all about Torah, right? What they tell you in yeshivas is true. It's all about Torah. That's what you're going to be involved in. It's from hasaga to hasaga, understanding to understanding, pshat to pshat, inyan to inyan, in a nifla way. I'll read a little bit more about Cain. When everything is arranged correctly, right? This world, we need a lot of Torah and midas and things like that to arrange things because everything's so messed up. Torah also helps arrange things, but in Olam Haba things are arranged. So then what happens? So then there's no need for davening anymore. We're not doing practical mitzvahs at a certain point, and we're not davening anymore. Rak limud Torah, basagas Torah, and understanding. Now listen to these words. Bilvush ha'inyan hashayach la'osa olam, in the garment of Torah that is in that world, ubasaga, and with the understanding, shiachal hasig v'lisbol, that the understanding we can handle, adrum kol olamas, until all the levels. Let me explain that a little bit, then we'll go back to it. In this world, think about any Gemara you've ever seen, any pshat, any piece of chumash you've ever seen. Vayigash Yehud el Yosef, right? That means there was a character called Yehuda who went to Yosef, who then was acting as the viceroy or the viceroy in Egypt. That's a story that can be understood on a basic level, right? You're not incorrect for thinking that what happened was that that Yehuda went to Yosef. But Yehuda means so much more. Yehuda also means that Malchus, that Yosef represented, went to Yesod, which Yosef represented. I say Yehuda represents Malchus, and Yosef, that's another level it means. And then there's level upon level, and every so the ideas of the Torah. Someone who learns, even when we learn Yeshiva, when we learn Lumdis, and we learn the mechanics behind what's behind the Maklos Rashi Tosis, that on the one hand, there's this stated halachic machlokas. He holds this way and he holds that way. Yeah, but what's going on at a deeper level? What's behind it? Now, on that's Pardes HaTorah, Pshat Rebbe's Drash Sod, right? There's Pshat Rebbe's Drash Sod. There are 4 basic levels, and then there are levels upon levels upon levels upon levels, and there are mishalim for this world. And so the story is a shore, an ox gored another ox, but that represents in halacha a mazik, which is being not mazik something, and we're mafshit we take apart the outside story to understand the deeper level of it. And now you and we understand a different level. Then the Kubalim go and understand a different level. I Baruch Hashem, I have friends who learn Kabbalah, and they tell me things sometimes. It's not you think it's just about a weasel that's stealing the chametz as opposed to a mouse that's stealing the chametz. Do you understand what a weasel represents and what a mouse represents? No, I don't. But they represent stuff, and that's what's really going on. And what chametz is this type of a thing, and they're right. But that the lower level of Torah is right. But there's hasaga al pi hasaga al pi hasaga, and in between now. So now when we're holding on to ideas in this world in Torah of Yosef and Yehuda and Shoshan and Gazapara, so we're holding on to those ideas, we're holding on to the beged, we're holding on to the levush, but that levush, like every beged, it contains and holds on to ideas which are far, far deeper than it, which is really cool. And every world represents another level of that gilui, of the revealing of the real ideas that are there. So it's really, so it's the same ideas, and they fit together. The Gra explains that later in life, when one person goes back and sees how what he thought, the correct ideas that he had when he was younger, all fit into the deeper ideas they have later. And you find, let's say, that the Kabbalah, Ramami Pano, and I think even in our generation, Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, they say, is to try to show how his psakim, he's a posik also, fit with Kabbalah. What is that about? You're showing how all the different levels fit together because there's ideas which are running through all of it. And by the way, I just add one, we could talk about this itself, but I think Rabbi Chanan Wasserman quoted a Gra that I'd never seen inside, but he quoted a Gra that said that the coarsest parts of Torah where the deepest secrets are. The Yud of Yud and Tamar, Yudah went to a prostitute. Like, really? That's the deepest part of the Torah. Ashes Lot and their children, Lot with his daughters. On the one hand, it's a story of incest. Rahman al-Islam, not something we hear about, God forbid. Who would shake from such a story? That's where Mashiach is born. Because there's Sodei Torah in there. Parshat Vayishlach. I would be sharing this on the version of Parshat Vayishlach. The Ramchal brings down Ma Rava Godol Shetzafanta L'Recha, something like that. Ma Rava Tuva Shetzafanta L'Recha. How great is the good that you've hidden L'Recha to those who hide you. And the Parshat Vayishlach, Eim Lochem Esher Mocha B'Eretz Edom. These are the kings that were in the Edomite tribe. L'fnei Malach Malach of Yisrael. Before there was a king in Yisrael. And a person's not Mashgiach on those psukim. That Mashiach is over there. Olam Ato is over there. The deepest parts of Torah are there. You don't even pay attention to it. Says, but that's where it's at. So both sides. So that's how Torah works. That's what he's saying. Let's read the word. So, and now the yeshiva which we go to is one level of hasaga to another level of hasaga. Rak limud Torah. So there's no Torah, there's no tefillah, there's no ma'asim tovim. So what do we do? We're just being nena. Rak limud Torah v'hasagas dar belevush ha'inyan hashayich los olam. We're going to get to the level of Torah. Right now we're living in an olam asiyah, or whatever, and then we're going to get to this other level, and then we're going to understand these ideas on this other level, and then we're going to go up another level and understand the ideas on another, all with the levush, and we're going to go up. So, pretty amazing. Anybody wants to look up the whole of that, Shebi Shmuel, it starts with the words, V'hinei sulam mutzav artz, they say that's the idea of the sulam of Yaakov. Okay, that's not our topic anymore. So we're both saying, why did I share all this? Because that's something to look forward to. If you like learning, right? If you like learning and you like the pleasure of learning today, guess what? Olam Haba is going to be so much more of that. The best moment you have in learning, right? When we learn, there's a combination of joy and suffering, right? I don't understand the idea yet. Some of us at a more basic level, I'm struggling with Aramaic. I'm struggling to just get the conversation down. Yeah? There's so much struggle. But back then, it's just going to be the joy. It's going to be the hasag. It's going to be the understanding. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be amazing. Now, I want to give a chizuk for those who enjoy learning less, and they have a difficult time with learning. But don't worry. In this world you can have difficulty, but what you're looking for in the next world is going to be open to you. That many people get it in this world also. The Holy Kamarna spent 5 years in difficulty learning as a Yasum without his father in the cold of Europe. It was freezing, he says. We didn't have food, and I was sad, and the learning didn't light up to me, and he became one of the greatest Mekubalim amongst the Rebbes, the Heilige Kamarna. Incredible, it became an incredible Rebbe. 5 years it took him. So it takes time sometimes to open up. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, everybody will open up for you in Olam Hazeh. But guess what? If it doesn't open up, or even as much as if it opens up, in the next world it's all open. All those boundaries are there. Your dyslexia or your misreading of things, or you're not being able to follow an argument, it's not going to happen in the next world. It's going to open up. And all the efforts you put in are going to be there. I want to say another word. To those who support Torah, guess what? You're going to also get the Hasag. You have to learn this world also. Like Rav Kali used to tell people, not worried about your Olam Haba, worry about Olam Hazeh. Right? But the Olam Haba is going to be amazing. Reb Chaim Volozhiner was working on a very, very difficult piece. I might be missing a detail or two in this, but this is definitely the tone of the story. He was working on something very, very difficult, and I don't think he'd found the breakthrough yet. And one of the donors to Volozhin, the mother of all yeshivas, one of the donors to Volozhin, passed away and came to him in a dream that night, or the second night after he passed away, and told him shot. And Reb Chaim Volozhiner said, I couldn't believe it. He said, I know that it's true that those who support Torah get Torah, but so fast. It was like that, something he didn't understand. The greatest mind, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, who can imagine? The Talmud Muvak of the Gra, Talmud Muvak to Luchas Rishonis, like my Rebbe Reb Blochman used to say about the Gra, Luchas Rishonis. Here he was, and here's a supporter. So incredible. So both sides. Those are two ideas to focus on. Let's get back to what we're doing, right? Those are two ideas which can help us look forward to Olam Haba, because all that we spoke about, if it's just an intellectual idea, it's not going to move us, it's not going to move me. But we have to think and I have to reflect a little bit. Oh, Shabbos, I love Shabbos, that's what it's going to be like. And a lot more of that. Learning, it's going to be a whole lot more of that. And Bezrat Hashem, that, together with the ideas we'll share in our next session, will propel us strongly towards Olam Haba, and to dedicate our lives and forget about the shtuyot of this world and focus as we should on all the good of the next world.